Where Madison was relatively bold on Florida, his timidity cost him in relation to the Bank of the United States, which he had lately decided was advantageous to the country despite his earlier quite significant opposition. The bank was due for a recharter in 1811, and both Madison and Secretary Albert Gallatin of the Treasury Department wanted the bank renewed. But Madison didn't really attempt to convince Congress to renew the bank, unlike Gallatin, who pleaded to anyone who would listen for the Bank of the U.S. to be rechartered. Mostly, Madison didn't do this because he wanted to spare himself the embarrassment of supporting an institution that he had earlier claimed was unconstitutional. As a result, Congress narrowly voted to reject the recharter of the bank, and this metastasized into a major problem when financing the War of 1812 became so difficult, mostly because Republicans were adamant about not raising taxes, but also because Federalists waged a campaign to undermine the purchase of government securities meant to fund a war, the War of 1812, that they opposed. So basically, without the Bank of the United States, it made paying for the war much, much more difficult because Republicans didn't want to raise taxes, and Federalists in the Northeast, many of whom had a lot of capital and who would have been the most likely candidates to buy a bunch of government securities, what we in the more modern era might call war bonds, they were like, fuck that. We're not doing that to help support this war that we don't like. Sell our war bonds elsewhere. Good luck with that.